Hey, 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 people. Welcome to Beards on the Street. I'm Perry. This is Mr. A.A. Ron. And
Episode
happy
59.
Friday. Episode 59.
We're rocking. It's going.
Yeah, baby. So hope everybody had a fantastic Memorial weekend. Got a little rest or maybe came home tired. I'm not sure.
I got to lay by the pool.
Hey, well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's good.
You know what's makes chubby look better? I mean, on anybody?
What's that?
A tan.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm just serious. You know, you're chubby, but if you're a tan chubby, it's better than being white chubby.
Okay. All right. So tan chubby it is. Right. So, Aaron, we got to go listen to a little bit of live blues last night.
We sure did. This is the second time I've been able to go see him.
Yeah, Mr. Mike Zito.
Man, he was...
That dude can play the guitar.
It was weird just watching him, his expressions getting into it. Like,
oh, yeah.
He's living through that. The expression is incredible.
Yeah, I think he had a little bit of the lettuce and was feeling mighty fine, too.
He was just...
Couldn't even hardly open his eyes.
Going for it, man.
You know, I watched a program. It's been a long time ago, but I watched this program about, especially back in the day, the major bands. When they would create their music, they were hiring a kite. And unless they were high again, they couldn't perform it the way that, because it's like muscle memory in their brain. And so, yeah. I don't know how much truth's in that, but
I'm actually listening to Rick Ruby's book. He's a coach to a lot of creatives, all kinds of different genre of music. He's this big, heavy Jewish guy. Looks like has like Gandalf hair and wild, but he talks about some of the creative elements to help them get to where they'll be able to be creative. Meaning, like a lot of them won't listen to what the actual music sounds. They want to be in the music,
right?
Or they purposely turn down everything, so they're super conscious of their voice, so it changes how they go through the music, how they sing the music.
Interesting.
It's fun, creative, man.
Yeah, but yeah, Mike, man,
I can imagine getting high.
You ever see this?
Might be so element too.
Man, they were
sounds
good.
like a future activity.
Yeah.
Yes. So, let's introduce our guest right now. This is Mr. Dan the Man. Dan is a CPA, and he's going to chat with us today a little bit about buying a home in this market that we're in right now.
Let me. So I actually had a chance to go to a CE class this week with him, and it lit me up. His ability to actually, use data, use graphs. Like, I'm not a super detailed guy, but when I can see it, and then his ability to communicate it. It made so much sense, so I'm like, we have got to share this.
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm really interested to hear what you have to say because I wasn't able to make that class. For all of you out there that are watching on Facebook, comment, give us some feedback. I'll keep periodically watching here, and if you ask any questions, I'll pose them over to Dan and see if we can't get some answers for you. If not, just say hi, and we'll try to say hi back. So
right now, the market we're in, there's a lot of uncertainty.
There's so much fear.
Yeah, there's so much, and the idea you're going to get into this, but you specifically touched to the point of, right now the contention is it's cheaper to rent, but it's not.
I think Dan has something to say about that.
But it's not.
I have a lot to say about that. Yeah.
So all right, well, let's see. Let's hear from Dan.
So I kind of want to tell you why I got into the position that I'm in right now in educating the population about how home ownership needs to be central and early to your financial planning. I run numbers on this all the time. I run numbers for a living, right? And I've been a CPA since 2015, and I noticed that the difference between my clients who were struggling and those who were comfortable and even wealthy, 95% of the time it was real estate, even just owning where they lived. Mm-hmm. That's it. And so I had to explore more and more of this. I got a little more involved. I picked up a mortgage license just for a little more market insight and to really understand how things worked on that side. And I did more math around this, like, holy cow, home ownership is so huge in your personal wealth. And it's funny because you hear people in the industry say things, like quips Like, okay, homeowners are 42 or 43 times wealthier than renters. Or if you're renting, you're paying 100% interest. Why are you worried about interest rates now? I don't find that super useful because it kind of seems like almost condescending in a way. Like, oh, you're renting. Why in the world are you doing that? You're so stupid. Like that's not what you're saying, obviously.
Right.
But sometimes that's might how it comes across.
Right.
And so if we can actually show them their situation and their numbers and plug in, okay, what are you doing? Why are you waiting right now? Let me show you what that looks like 1 year from now, 2, 5, 10, 20, 30, for the rest of your life. If we can project how home ownership, even just owning where you live, affects your total financial well-being, I think that's where we win. We can help educate people without sounding condescending, without shaming renters. There are definitely times when renting does make more sense. Right? If you don't have a strong financial foundation, a strong income, and the baseline for that is qualifying for a mortgage, although that's not always the best baseline for you. But if you don't have that solid income and you have a good trajectory of your career, or at least some kind of baseline, it might be better to rent.
Right.
Meaning if you don't know if you're going to have a job tomorrow, maybe it is good to be fluid and be able to move, I guess.
Or even what kind of job you have and how much money you have saved up. I mean, there are some grants and whatnot, and what your credit report looks like, and on and on. We all know that there's a lot to it. So, Dan, I've got this monthly cash flow comparison. Talk about this baby. It's on our screen.
This one blew my mind.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. We in the industry often make a mistake of leading with equity. You need to build equity. You need to, this is long-term wealth without being able to really describe what that means. But I think that's our first mistake, because especially in this market, I think this has been true for a very long time, is people aren't focused on the long-term benefits. They're thinking month to month. How far is my paycheck going to go this month? Can I afford my groceries? Can I afford my rent? Can I afford a mortgage? That sounds crazy. I can barely afford my rent right now with everything else. And so I'm thinking month to month to month. Why would I think 20 years in the future? I'm trying to survive. Right. So if we lead with, okay, what does it look like month to month today? And how does it get easier? That's when we score points with people who are wanting to have more information and really understand the financial impact of their home ownership decisions.
Talk us through this graph we're looking at.
So Excel is my playground. CPAs, that's kind of the par for the course. I got really involved with Excel because of I recognized the power of it and showing people things. And again, I'm kind of a math guy, as you all know.
It's behind me on the image, but it's actually what they're looking at on our stream right now.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So Excel is my playground, and I just got so involved, and I realized it's a huge tool to help people understand things, especially if you can make numbers into a visual, like you were talking about.
Right.
Because 75% of the population are visual people. So if we can help convert those numbers into something they can wrap their minds around, then we win. And this particular one is, monthly cash cost of renting versus owning. And you can see on the red line, it is cheaper today if we're only talking about month-to-month cost, money out of your pocket, money out of your bank account. You're going to write a smaller check to rent than you are to own in current market conditions. That's just the way it is. To the tune of, almost $700, $800 here. Right? But as you see, as time goes by, your rent aggressively goes up. I just have a 3.5% increase here. In recent years, it's been as high as averages in Utah counties, Salt Lake, Davis, Utah, Weber counties. It's been closer to between 12 and 14% year-over-year increases on rent.
Wow.
So I'm still being conservative here on a 3.5%. And you can see at some point it crosses over to being more expensive month to month to rent. Now, you're saying, well, that's going to take 6-ish years here in this example. And if you want, I can go over that. We're going to show the numbers on what numbers I plugged into here. But your rent costs are there, and your home ownership costs on the green line are there too. That actually includes maintenance. That includes your mortgage, your taxes, your interest, your insurance. Pretty much, and yes, it's an estimate because we can do this for specific houses if you want to. I have this tool set up to do that. But all we can really work with are long-term averages. And so,
do you know what's fun about this graph?
Yeah, what?
It shows you that even with today's rates and what things are at, that by 5 or 6 years, you can afford to, it's cash flow.
Yeah, if you turn this around as an investor.
Yes, which allows you to maybe build your financial base, go to your next property, and it supports itself.
Bingo.
and that home continues on that trajectory. Okay, so that's a thought of mine, but
Precisely, yeah. That's forward thinking, that you flip that around as the owner of that property and renting out to somebody else. That's exactly what happens. So somebody might see a negative cash flowing property, which is a turnoff to most, especially beginning investors. But if you think about your 401k, that's a negative cash flowing instrument as well.
Right.
Isn't it? So
that was the other thing that considering on here, and I know you have another may have a slide for us to see today, but where it shows the actual month by month investments being made into that home while you feel there's a negative draw. There's appreciation happening. Anyway. So yeah.
That's kind of what this piece of the graph shows, and in a moment we'll actually combine the two. But this is, you do have to consider your equity as well. Again, that's what most people in the industry lead with, because it's hard to quantify. I'm like, you're building equity, and that's certainly true. But if you actually put true numbers to that, like, wow, that is actually powerful. There's a comma in that number. There's 6 figures there, and 7 figures as you go along. And in this particular one, I'm using a $475,000 house, which I realize isn't a starter home for everyone in most markets.
It is nowadays.
It's getting there, right?
Really
Especially
is.
in our market here in Utah. But you think about, well, wait a minute, 35 years, $2.2 million. Are you kidding me? But if you go back 35 years, how much was a $475,000 house worth?
Right.
Well, I like that first number, even just the first year where it's a supposed negative draw, and you're already up plus 23,000 versus renting, you have nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean, that does include your down payment. And so generally speaking, I think if you're going to live in that house for just 2 years, I don't know if it's a good move to buy it unless you keep it and invest it and keep it as a real estate investment property, because there's commissions involved, there's repairs. Like, selling a home costs money.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not as cheap as buying and selling a stock online. So if you're thinking about just using the equity to springboard you into your next one and not renting it out, buying a house and knowing that you're going to be there for 1 or 2 years might not be your best financial play.
Okay, well, on to the monthly. Oops, I went the wrong way, didn't I? There we go.
Yeah, this is where it really hits home.
Yeah.
Because you're combining the two. This is a total wealth difference. That's the cash flow differences between renting and owning, which in the initial years is in favor of renting, right? Just writing a check, but also the appreciation engine on there, which is so powerful. That's baking those in. And the top line is home ownership, and the bottom line is renting. And as you can see, humans aren't great at understanding compound interest. I mean, I'm a math guy, and I have a hard time. I need a calculator to do it, honestly. If it's projected out more than 1 or 2 years, I need to put that sucker in a calculator. And so, yes, it costs you wealth to live, to have a roof over your head one way or the other. But renting, I mean, you don't build that wealth, obviously, with the equity. And I'm actually putting numbers to that to show you, okay, what is the actual impact, the wealth difference between renting and owning. And it just gets better and better for homeowners and worse for renters. So, I mean,
So this is negative wealth?
yeah, it costs you money, and it is.
Yeah.
It's also negative wealth for the first, few years. It looks like even 20, 21 years. But it's a lot less negative. What you have to pay the mortgage, you have to pay interest. That's why it's negative for a while. But renting is far worse because, look at year 15. You're in the hole by home ownership, $109,000 because you have to pay interest and all that. But renting, cumulative, you're down $674,000.
Wow.
So pretty huge difference. Yeah, that's a $570,000 swing there. That's huge.
Wow, that is huge. Okay, show me which next slide you want.
Let's talk about the metrics I'm using to generate those graphs. So yep, that one's great. So just to show you the metrics that I'm not blowing smoke at you, this is part of the spreadsheet. And if anybody wants this, contact us. We can walk you through some scenarios. It's kind of fun. And I have somebody renting a $475,000 house. And please tell me if any of these metrics don't make sense, or like, oh, you're blowing smoke, Dan. That doesn't make sense. Can you rent a $475,000 house? How much does that cost to rent these days? Like a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house.
Right.
I plugged in there $2,888. Renter's insurance, I've heard people say, oh, that's way too low, and I've heard that's way too high. I kind of try to split the difference there. So that's our initial renting costs, $2,913, and then transaction details. The next slide will happen too, but let's finish this one. Sale price of $475. I'm assuming you put 5% down. That's that $23,750. That's your equity. Closing costs, I'm assuming you're getting those paid, although we could put those in as well. Rate buy down, it's really easy to get complicated with this graph, but I'm not going to do that today. We can demonstrate that later if we want to, do a live. Loan rate of 7.25. That, I mean, when I created this, that's kind of what I had it. That's up, that's down. That's really just depends on the day in the market. This could be outdated next month, and I hope it is. I hope rates are lower than that, but you never know. I'm using current terms. 30-year loan, private mortgage insurance, which everybody kind of craps on, and for good reason and for bad reason, that does allow you to get into a home for less than 20% down, of course, but you have to pay it, and that only protects the lender, not really you. 3 years of payment terms there. And then more metrics in there. I have taxes, insurance. I just have those as fixed percentages. They could be higher or lower depending on the property.
You're not fluffing anything. You're showing all the actual. That's great.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to blow smoke. That doesn't help anybody. So I had that mortgage payment. Whoa, $34.86. That seems so high. And relatively speaking to 3 years ago, yes, it is. But that's the reality of today. And I'm still showing the numbers of why it's still hugely beneficial to own. HOA, utilities, I only have that if there's going to be a difference in renting versus owning. That's what this graph is all about. Maintenance, I have a 0.5% in there of the purchase price. Again, that depends on a whole bunch of things, how old the home is, the quality of it, how well it's been maintained, etc. If you're going to pay any extra to the mortgage, you can do that. I have a field for that. Property income, if you're going to rent it out, I actually have this spreadsheet built out to if you're going to keep it. You can, you can do that. Monthly income term, how long you're going to get that. And then more assumptions there. Rent increase of 3.5%. Traditionally, it's been nationwide about 3.6. I'm being conservative here, and we just talked about how some of the last few years have been double digits. But again, I don't want to blow smoke. I'm trying to stack the deck in favor of renting, which and home ownership still just blows that out of the water. Home appreciation, 4.5%. I feel like that's pretty reasonable, especially where we are, probably closer to 6. And then national inflation is pretty dang close to what rent increases are, because that is the biggest component of inflation. So those are my metrics. If anybody thinks I'm off, please let me know. I would love to correct it. The spreadsheet is built to allow that. Yeah, we can go that one next. So earlier we saw what those differences were in wealth, and those are actually yearly numbers there. And people think, well, in the first slide, the 1 to 2 years, if I'm sacrificing that wealth difference, that just looks tiny. Maybe it's a few $1,000s in the first few years. But you have to remember, you can't reap the benefits of those later years without pulling that trigger earlier. So if you wait 1 year, this is projecting forward 35 years, your difference in wealth in one single year in 35 years from now is $190,000. And as the graphic there shows, well, what is that worth in today's dollars? Roughly $57,000 of today's dollars. That's, like 1.5 times the median income.
Annual benefit of owning? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Difference
That's
of owning
big
between
number.
renting.
So it may cost $700 a month because rates are not so pretty.
Yeah,
but
writing a check to a mortgage company versus to your landlord might be an extra $700 a month in this scenario.
Yeah.
But on a wealth perspective, we can zoom out and get that wealth perspective rather than the month to month. It's so huge.
Which one do you want next?
Well, we can do the where the money goes, the first one, because we talk about the first month all the time, and that's what everybody's mind is on. So this is where your money goes. I'm going to compare renting versus owning, of course, which is what this is all about. Your first rent payment, assuming all the metrics we talked about, $29.13 rent and rent insurance. You don't get any appreciation, of course, because you don't own the property. So that decreases your wealth by $29.13, right? And something interesting scenario I put sometimes in my classes is, well, when the landlord pays off the mortgage, do they come to the renter and say, hey, congratulations, I paid off my mortgage. I'm going to decrease your rent by $2,000.
No.
That's when their ship comes in.
They're like, cha-ching.
Yeah. So they're not going to lower your rent. They're going to keep it up with market rents, right? Now, this is where your money goes on the first mortgage payment, which is your worst mortgage payment because of, there's the largest amount of interest you're ever going to pay on that mortgage, assuming you don't refinance, is going to be in your first payment. And so you can see the numbers